Since 2003, this is the Sports Source, East Tennessee's #1 sports talk show.
Presented by Junk Be Gone, Phoenix Conversions.
With your host, John Pennington. The Sports Source starts now.
Good Sunday morning. Welcome into the Sports Source. We have a lot to discuss today. Tennessee, they blew a game yesterday at Auburn, as you know, that felt a lot worse than the scoreboard looked. We'll discuss that. We'll discuss what's on everybody's Twitter feed and message board, and that is Barnes versus Pearl. That's coming up today as well. We'll talk Tennessee football. We got a lot of stuff to cover. Let's get right into this show. First segment brought to you by our friends at Phoenix Conversions. This is a 33-year-old company, folks. They carry every possible accessory you could ever possibly need for your truck, your van, or your SUV. And if you run a business, that goes for your entire fleet of trucks, vans, SUVs. Whether that's converting your vehicle to make it better for work or make it handicap accessible, Phoenix Conversions is the team to turn to for all kinds of truck, van, SUV conversions. They do it all. Phoenix Conversions. Check them out online or drop by and see them this week. All right, let's start our program with wave one of the panelists. We got three more sitting in the wings. We got Mark Pankratz right here, Mike Strange right there, and Jimmy Himes right there. And the little graphic beneath them will tell you exactly who they are and what they do. Folks, tale of two halves. As Tennessee played as well as they have all year in the first half at Auburn yesterday. They shot better than 50% in the first half. They lead the thing 41-33. I commented at halftime that 40 points out of this bunch at halftime, that's an unusual afternoon. And then they reverted back to normal in the second half. They got blown out, blown out in the second half to blow a 17-point lead. An 18-0 Tiger run. 73-66 was the final, but because of how it happened and who it happened to, it led to much angst in the fan base yesterday. Opening thoughts on what might have been kind of performance. It looked like this might be a feather in the cap game, and instead it's a kick in the pants game. Reactions?
Well, it was a kick in the pants. I also think it was the kind of game where if Tennessee had won it, you still have some hopes of getting into the NCAA tournament if things fall right. I don't think there's any chance right now unless you win the SEC tournament. But you did lead at halftime. You got, 3 minutes out of Fulkerson. And 5 minutes into the second half, when you had the 17-point lead, you were shooting 54%. And I'm sitting there thinking, Auburn's going to make a run. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much of a run, how long it's going to take. But I thought when Vescovi got his fourth foul and he went out and Auburn went on that run, I thought that play was very huge. It was a silly foul by Vescovi.
It was, and we'll debate whether or not he should have sat as long as he did. Mm-hmm. Mike Strange, your thoughts on the game?
I think this is a very fragile team. They're capable of good moments and good runs, but they just, for reasons we've discussed all year, have not meshed into a consistent unit. I thought Fulkerson looked like he wasn't ready to play yesterday. And if you ever have been wondering what would this team be like if Vescovi hadn't showed up, well, you saw that most of the second half yesterday. They just had no cohesiveness whatsoever on offense.
No, the one guy who stood out on offense, you got to give credit to Jordan Bowden.
Absolutely.
They wasted what was probably his best game of the season, best game maybe of his career.
Yeah, I mean, for the whole season of us really being hard on Bowden, just an immense applause to him for his game yesterday. I mean, he was the reason why we were up 17 points with Fulkerson having the poor outing that he had. But you can't turn the ball over 20 times, leads to 24, 27 points off turnovers. It just shows the deficiencies of this basketball team. We've talked about it all year. There's no point guard, and there is nobody on that team, that alpha dog, that can come and stop a team's run, go make a play. And Josiah James having to handle the ball more. There was just a lot of gaps that showed up yesterday in that second half that once they got going downhill, we couldn't stop them.
We've touched on some of them. I want to spur the conversation a little bit. Let me throw out blame pie, as I see it. I'm going to give one slice of blame pie to the team and the players for those 24 turnovers that Mark just mentioned. 24 turnovers, you're not going to beat anybody, especially a Pearl coach team that thrives off transition baskets, that needs those to feed their offense. to put that in perspective, Auburn was coming in off losses to Missouri and Georgia. Missouri and Georgia combined in those two games for 23 turnovers. You had 24 yesterday. I'm going to give two slices of blame, that's hard to say, blame pie to Rick Barnes. One, Vescovi did pick up his fourth foul, but good grief, he played 18 minutes in that game. I mean, at some point, and there have been studies done as to whether coaches overreact to the second foul in the first half, fourth foul in the second half too early, and they sit them too long. I think he sat him too long. I mean, what are you saving him for at that point? Mark, you can argue with me on that one if you like. And then the other thing, no timeout during the 18-zip run. Barnes sat there and just let it go. His comment, he was asked about it after the game. Let's go ahead and put that up. I thought this was, well, I'll read it. We come out of timeout sometimes, and guys don't do exactly what we want them to do. So to answer your question, do I think a timeout would have helped? I don't, or I would have taken one. You guys may have heard that differently. I read that, and it sounds kind of pouty. Well, it's not going to work anyway, so I'm not going to call it. I don't know. Rick Barnes, very good coach, going to the Hall of Fame someday. I didn't like that comment. Your thoughts on the comment, your thoughts on the decision not to call a timeout?
It stood out to me. Okay, I'm not making $5 million, but I would have called a timeout. I thought anything you could do to try to curb that momentum from Auburn, I would have tried. If I'd had to call 2 timeouts, I'd have gone in that direction. But I think this is a team that you can't let them try to play their way out of it because, as has been mentioned, they really lack a true point guard at times, and they also don't have that alpha dog that can stop it. And if you don't have that, I think as a coach you need to try to do it yourself to call the timeouts, to do anything you can to try to stop Auburn's run.
Well, the run went on so long that there was a media timeout or something in there somewhere.
Right, but to wait for that,
But sitting there on my couch, I'm thinking call timeout. For what? I've won 0 games as a college coach, but I'm sitting there, call timeout.
Thoughts on the response, though? He's asked about it, and he says, well, sometimes they don't do what I want in a timeout anyway, so I'm not going to call it.
I didn't like it because then it's like, well, why aren't they listening to you?
Well, yeah, so,
as a coach?
So I've been in, perfect example, Oklahoma State, NCAA tournament, I had the scout, Coach Pearl asked me, what are they going to call? I knew what they were going to call somehow, some way. We designed what our defense is going to be. We're going to switch the ball screen between Tyler Smith and Josh Tabb. We tell them to switch the ball screen in the timeout. They come out. Josh Tabb and Tyler Smith do not switch the ball screen. They go make a layup. We lose the game. It happens. However, as a coach, if I'm a good teacher, a player's not been taught until they can carry out what we've asked them to do. And so if a coach is saying that, man, they're not listening in the timeout, or that's on the teacher, that's on the coach. They've got to be able to change up their messaging to be able to get the players to do what they've asked them to do. Just like Jimmy said, no point guard, no playmaker. The time and score, the environment, you've got an up-tempo team, you've got everything led you to believe of like, I don't care if there's a media timeout coming, eventually it's call timeout, I'm going to control this thing, I'm a Hall of Fame coach, I'm going to, look, even if you don't carry it out, I can put my stamp on this game by say, run this play, get a basket, get a look, and see if I can put my fingerprint on this game.
Coach's perspective on sitting Vescovi for as long as they did.
Again, obviously we're looking at this hindsight's 2020, sure. But yeah, Vescovi is a guy that you can move him off the ball. You can do some different things to try to protect him from getting that foul, that 5th foul. But you're trying to win a game. You got nothing to lose. If it's going downhill that way, I'm going to put my best player, my best ball handler in the game to try to win that basketball game.
Yeah, it's like, well, it couldn't be any worse if he fouled out.
Yes, exactly. If he fouls out, I mean, you're basically fouling him out on your own. Yeah. If you're just sitting him over there, he's got a 5th foul just waiting. Put him in. Let him pick it up.
Yeah, and the other thing is, these other guys got to step up. You know, Gaines, Josiah. I mean, Jalen Johnson. The other guys. Man, look, we're not asking you to go score another 20 points. Take care of the dang ball. We win the basketball game. It's not that. It wasn't that great. We had layups that we missed. We had opportunities to finish that basketball game, and it just shows that we don't have that guy that can do that for us.
Some of those turnovers were just ridiculous.
Open court, too. A lot of them open court, which just was immediately 2 points in the other direction.
Yeah. 10-second call, Fulkerson throwing the ball back court, players colliding at midcourt, and Auburn stealing it and going down hitting the layup.
I think Auburn stepped up their want to in the second half,
I do
and
too.
Tennessee didn't respond. And maybe the officials let them get away with that. Well, you got to respond to that.
Well, on one note on that is, we got to catch a break, but I thought it was interesting that the announcers made it clear that Pearl was up, screaming, yelling in the official's face the entire first half, and then they tee up Barnes. And they said, well, they're trying to get a hold of things here. Then tee up the guy tee up the other guy. I wonder, if you have a reputation for being that guy, the idea is, well, you'll be the quickest one to get a tee because you always act like that. I wonder if it's not the other way, that that's just Bruce being Bruce. Now, Barnes, not going to listen. You don't do this. Is that any truth to that?
Expectations. People have an expectation that BP is going to be a little bit more flamboyant than Barnes.
So he may get a little bit more rope. That's interesting. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk more about the basketball game. We're going to look at the remaining schedule and a lot of heat being thrown at Josiah James all year. So I went and I looked at all the other 31 five-star players in the country, the five-star freshmen, and I compared his game to their game. Come back to be enlightened.